coterminal, M.4 coterminal, and reference angles, right? So we're going to go with coterminal first. I'm kind of going to skip around a little bit and try to work your way up. So I'm going to go to this one first. Find the measure of a negative angle coterminal with 285. And this is what we just did on M3. So we're going to take 285 and we're going to subtract 360. We're going to get our calculators out because we don't want to waste time. And get negative 75. Negative 75 is the same thing as positive 285. They are coterminal. Now, in IXL, there's not, on these coterminal questions, there's not just one answer. We could have even went on even more and subtracted another negative 360 or minus 360 and got negative 435. If you put negative 435 or negative 75 in IXL, you would get it correct. They are the same answer. Let's go ahead and do these degrees first. And that's all the degrees we have, because it's either adding 360 or subtracting 360 to be able to get that. Now, on the radians, remember, 0 is the same thing as 360 for degrees. 0 and 2 pi radians are the same. So if we're in degrees, we're going to add or subtract 360. If we are in radians, we're going to add or subtract 2 pi. And so on this, we have 8 pi over 5, and we're going to subtract 2 pi. Now, you could get your calculator out and do 8 over 5 minus 2 and get your answer. Or, if we want to challenge ourselves, is 10 over 5 the same thing as 2? Well, yes, because I just doubled the bottom number, the denominator, and put it on in the numerator, and we put that. 10 over 5 pi is the same thing as 2 pi. And the reason I did that is to get common denominators. And so these are like terms. So 8 minus 10 is negative 2 pi over 5. Or if you put it in the calculator earlier, negative 2 pi over 5. Do not forget the pi. Find negative coterminal angle. So 2 pi over 3 minus 2 pi. Or negative 2 pi over 3 minus, double the 3 and get 6 pi over 3. 2 minus 6 is negative 4 pi over 3. On this one, it's already negative, and we want positive. So we are going to add 2 pi this time. You can put a 1 in front of the pi. And we're going to double the 15 to get 30. Pi over 15. Because 30 over 15 is 2. And then we just do negative 1 plus 30 is 29 pi over 15. If you can reduce, you must reduce. We just haven't had to so far. Now it's wanting us to do both. It's wanting us to get a positive coterminal angle and a negative coterminal angle. So we're going to do 29 pi over 18 plus 2 pi, and 29 over 18 minus 2 pi. 29 pi over 18, doubling 18, you get 36. And 29 plus 36 is 65. So that's going to go in this one because it's the positive one. 29 pi over 18 minus 36 pi over 18. 29 minus 36 is negative 7 pi over 18. Now we're going to talk about terminal angles. And terminal angles is basically what we talked about in M3 also, figuring out where they stop. Terminal means to end, right? Where do they end? So remember, in quadrant 1, the reference angle is the reference angle. So it just means that it's from 0 to 90. If the terminal angle is in quadrant 2, then we're going to do 180 minus the angle, or pi minus the angle. This is going to make better sense whenever we get there. I misspoke. Reference angle isn't where you stop. A reference angle if I had an angle right here, then the angle in reference to the x-axis. Okay, it always goes to the x-axis. So this is in quadrant 1. If we end up in quadrant 2, the reference angle is what's left. So we're going to take the 180, or the pi, and subtract the angle that it gives us. If we are in quadrant 3, sometimes this happens. My computer likes to mess up on me. Sorry about that. If we are in quadrant 3, which means that we finish up in quadrant 3, what part is to the x-axis? This part. So we're going to take however big the angle is and subtract the 180. And if we end up in quadrant 4, what's to the x-axis? This is to the x-axis, so what's left of the circle. So that's why we're going to take the 360 or the 2 pi and subtract the angle. So you're probably going to want to keep that as a guide. So on this, let's think about it. I know fractions and radians, they're not very fun. I could give you some tips on keeping it as radians and kind of figuring out where to end at, but I suggest that you convert it to degrees. 300. Okay? Pretty much, if it's 5 over 3, 5 over 3 is really close to 6 over 3, and 6 over 3 is 2. And so it's almost a complete circle. That's how I see it. So I knew it's probably going to be in quadrant 3. Quadrant 4. But now that we know it's 300, we're going to take, and 300 is between 270 and 360. We're going to subtract it from 360, and we get 60. Now 60 is not the answer because 60 is in degrees. So then we're going to have to convert it back to radians, and 6 pi over 18 reduces to pi over 3. Or we could have done 2 pi minus 5 pi over 3, which is 6 pi over 3 minus 5 pi over 3, which is pi over 3. But this makes more sense to everybody because 300 is right here. And remember, the reference angle always goes to the x-axis. And so how much is that? It's 60. And pi over 3 is the same thing as 60. Find the measure of the reference angle for 190. 190 is in quadrant 2. So we're going to take 180 and subtract, golly, losing it. 190 is bigger than 180. So 180, that means it's in quadrant 3. So we're going to take that. Ten is your reference angle. That's 180. Then a little bit more gets us to 190. And we want the little bit more because it's touching the x-axis. So it's 10 degrees. 340 is almost 360. So we want what's left. So 360 minus 340 is 20. 110 is 90 and a little bit more. The little bit more is 20, but 20 doesn't touch the x-axis, right? 70 finishes out that 90 that makes the quadrant. Or we could have done 180 minus 110 and got 70. So negative 303 is right here. So we want to finish out the circle. So we're going to take a positive 360 and minus the 303 and get 57. So 57 is the reference angle. 57 is how big this angle is right here. Okay, 7 over 12 is bigger than 6 over 12, which is a half. We're just going to convert it. Seven times 180 divided by 12 is 105. So we want what's left. So 180 minus 105 is 75. Oh, but that's not the answer because we have to put it back. Into radians. So we're going to get a calculator. We're going to hit fraction, and 75 over 180 to reduce it for us is 512. Which makes sense because 5 plus 7 is 12. Okay. (23 over 9 is bigger than 2.